Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. How are you all? All well, I hope. I want to thank everybody who has supported my channel, liked my videos, subscribed, sent super chats, joined as a member, bought me a coffee. Thank you so much. Now, in this video, I am going to talk about Willow's testimony. Now, as the inquest approaches, still quite a long way to go. I'm one witness that I'm sure James Adeley would love to call if he could, is Willow. Because when it comes to the inquest, even though it's not a criminal court, there will be witnesses called. And I'm sure if only he could, James Adeley would be calling Willow, because Willow knows so much more, doesn't she, than everybody else. So of course, dogs can't talk, or can they? You know, this is the point of this video. What I want to explain in this video is what I think is Willow's testimony that she's already given us, and we just have to interpret it. So before I start, I'd like to say I did have to remove a troll the other day. I really don't like removing comments, even when well, if they're nasty against me, I don't mind, because you know, at the end of the day, you put yourself on YouTube, that's what you set yourself up for. But I had to remove someone who then was also sort of upsetting my other chatters. Like, I actually had messages from people saying, look, you know, I'm not going to comment anymore because, you know, this has happened and that, and I can't keep up with every single comment or response. It's mainly in the responses that I hardly ever get to see. I might get to see the original comments, but then when the responses carry on, I don't see, you know, I have to really look for them, and to be honest, it takes a long time, and I don't even know what if I'm looking for anything unless somebody tells me. So I just removed this person, and what it's made me see, you know, this community that I'm trying to build up here, where if you don't agree with it, if you don't like my videos, you don't want to, you think I'm exploiting Nicola Bulley, or you think I'm not saying enough about Nicola Bulley. I mean, I get both, you know. It's like, you can't go, right, I shouldn't be advertising my books on here to learn Spanish, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. Why are you watching? Why are you watching? You know, what am I supposed to do? You know, I'm just doing this channel in the way I think is right, and I'm gauging, like, the supportive people that I have, my chatters, etc. I hope I'm providing some content for them that they want to see. That's the other point. And also, as far as Nicola is concerned, it's about bringing justice for Nicola. If you believe that or not, that's up to you. So what I've decided is, because of the one thing I won't have, I don't mind being, you know, people making comments about me or whatever. I say that's just part of YouTube. But when you start upsetting the other chatters to the point that one is even sort of saying, oh, well, I don't think I'll make any more comments. No, I'm not having it. So if you can't talk to someone in a normal, decent way, you have your opinion, you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to, like, talk to them as if you're shouting or be aggressive. And you know who you are, you're gone. That's it. Final, gone. I'm not saying it again. I'm not even going to bring it up again. I'm just going to delete any nasty comments, or even disrespectful comments that you make towards other chatters, etc., or to me, because that's what sets off these threads. They're just gone, because you know what, life's too short. I can't be bothered with that. I'm sure the other people that are watching can't be bothered with that. We want a nice little safe community where we can talk and say what we like freely, and respect the fact that people might not always agree with us. Doesn't matter how outlandish somebody's theories are. Nobody's having theories with disrespect to Nicola as far as that case is concerned, or any case. And normally they respect us, the victim, and they might have what you think is an outlandish theory, but it's just something they're saying. They're not being disrespectful. They want to know what happened to her. They care about her. And if you can't see that, then you know you really need to click out, because I will be making many more videos about Nicola on the run up to the inquest. So well, I'll make videos whenever I think there's anything pertinent to say, and I'm also be going back over certain things. So I just wanted to get that off my chest before I start talking about Willow's testimony. And you know, I've always thought that from the Dan Walker interview, that's what I'm going to put some pictures on here now. From the Dan Walker interview, I felt that Willow doesn't like Paul, or doesn't feel comfortable around Paul. And Willow tells us that by the way she jumps up next to Dan, cuddles up to him, very comfortable with him. And then later on in the interview, when probably Emma in the background tries to get, you know, get hold of Willow, because that'll look good that you've got Willow. And you know, Paul has to actually hold Willow next to him, and Willow is turned away from him, and he's very yawning and panting. That's signs of anxiety in dogs. So that's the first time I thought, oh, you know, that dog doesn't look very comfortable with him. Now, I've had dogs for a long time. I've had lots of dogs. I know exactly when they're uncomfortable, comfortable or not comfortable. You think dogs don't speak just because they don't use words. They speak. Any of you that have got dogs, you know your dog can tell you a lot. They practically do talk to you. They make you do things. My dog, well, there's 3 dogs in this house, 2 of which are mine and 1 is my son's. My dogs, oh God, speak, but you know, you can't ignore them either. They won't let you ignore them until, you know, if I was a different sort of person, I would ignore them, but I'm not. I listen to them, what they say. So that was my first feeling. So I feel that if Willow was giving testimony at the inquest, the first thing she would say is, I don't like Paul. But and the other thing that happened during that interview, at one stage when Dan mentioned mummy, Willow looked directly at Paul. It was quite odd, but anyway, there you go. So that's the first piece of testimony that I believe that Willow has given us. Then there's the thing about the ball. No ball, definitely no ball. There was a ball. I don't know why this insistence on there being no ball was. I think my belief is on that morning it wasn't Nicola who took Willow anyway to the river. That's why there was no ball. There was no way that Emma was going to take a ball, because that would, you know, irritate her, because she definitely was irritated by the ball. And I'm sure, as I've said in the previous video, I'm sure, you know, it is irritating. Dogs can be irritating when they get fixated on a ball and are always wanting you to throw it. But you know, on nearly every photo, on the video of Nicola sledging down the hill with the children, there's a ball there, there's a tennis ball there. So, you know, I'm sure she did still take a ball. I don't believe it that there was no ball, or normally that there was no ball. On that morning there was no ball because Emma didn't take a ball. And I think that's another piece of testimony that Willow would give, or has given, whichever way you want to look at it. Now, these next 2 bits of testimony, which are really combined in one, I don't know if you watched the interview with Peter Faulding on the, gosh, I've forgotten what the name of the channel is, and I need to give it what do we call it? I need to give it a shout out because I need to make it apparent that I saw this interview on that channel. I will put it in the description box. Is it Anything Goes or something like that it's called? Let me just check. I might have it up on here. So yes, so it's called Anything Goes, and this with James English, and it's a very interesting YouTube channel. They covers all kinds of things, but in this particular episode was called Searching for the Dead, and he interviewed Peter Faulding, and it's quite a long interview, very interesting, very interesting. He can't discuss the Nicola Bulley case because of the inquest coming up, but yeah, he said quite a lot of things about, you know, the recoveries that he's made, etc. And one thing that it just was a bit of a revelation for me, not a revelation because I'd forgotten it, I suppose, but it just clicked. This is another piece of testimony that Willow gave us. So first of all, we just look at this tiny clip from the interview, which was the pertinent bit. Now, I just want to tell you before we listen to what Peter Faulding had to say. He was talking about a young lad who was living like a traveller lifestyle, and he had stopped by a river, and he decided to go in this river and for a wash or whatever, and the river looked, you know, safe. I think it may have been at night time when he did it, but anyway, he went in the river to wash himself, etc. A lot of people lead this sort of van life, travelling lifestyle now. It's like, you know, this saving the planet, isn't it? And it's very popular. And anyway, so this poor lad, he had gone into the river and he'd got caught in the weeds, it seems, and disappeared. But listen to what he says next.
And his little dog was crying on the riverbank, and I've got dogs and I get upset when I see animals injured, you know, and he was literally howling beside the river, and that was where he was marking his own as where he went in.
And that, then listening to that, it made me remember something that happened. It made me obviously first of all think about Nicola, and I thought, well, yeah, why was Willow not there, sat on the side, crying? I mean, even Paul said Willow was like their third child. You could see from the photos, Nicola and Willow were nearly always together. They were very close. You know, Willow wasn't a dog that was kept outside and, you know, just like at arm's length, just as, you know, not really part of the family. Willow was part of the family and was glued to Nicola. You could see that. And I thought, yes, because it reminded me, because that is exactly what dogs do. And it reminded me of a time in my past, which if you have read my book, you will know a little bit about. If you're a member, there is a video on the members channel where I tell the sort of more or less full story of what happened. Of that incident when I was stalked. I was stalked for, unfortunately, I split up from a partner. I won't go into the whole story of that here and now, and I had this stalking experience for 5 months because my ex-partner would not accept that our relationship was over. Various things happened, and it all culminated in a tragedy, but in another way, it was a tragedy. But for me, it was an escape, because I'm lucky to even have my life now. I know that, and I know that from WhatsApp. That's what started my interest in true crime, especially in stalking cases, in women especially, but men, it happens to men too. When ex-partners just simply will not accept that relationship is over. Now, myself and my ex-partner, we had a dog, and this dog, it was actually my dog to begin with. It's a little black poodle called Zach. I'm going to be showing you some photos in a minute. And he was a beautiful little dog, little toy poodle. And he was like, when I got that dog, he was like my baby, because at the time I got him, I was single, I had no children. He was literally, I'd always wanted a little black poodle. Because when I was a child, my next door but one neighbour had a little black poodle, and he called it Vicky after me when I was little. He named the dog Vicky after me. And when he died, he left me this little black poodle in his will. He said that the poodle should come to me. But of course, I was still only a child. I mean, when he died, I don't know how old, I was probably 8 years old, maybe. Anyway, my parents didn't like dogs, my mother in particular. Though as she got older, she started to really like animals, but when she was, I don't know what happened, but at that age she didn't. So, you know, probably had too many other things going on. So they gave Vicky to our next door neighbours, who were the people that lived in between us and Jack. Jack Chatterton, his name was, and he lived 2 doors away. And my parents said, we're not having the dog. And they gave it to my next door neighbours who lived next door to us. And I was absolutely devastated. Absolutely devastated, because all I wanted was that dog. But anyway, there you go. So I always wanted a little black poodle, a little black toy poodle. So as soon as I was sort of living on my own and I had a bit of money, you know, because I was single and working, I bought a little black pedigree poodle. It's the only time in my life I've ever bought a pedigree animal. And normally all our pets, ever since they're cats and dogs, have been rescue animals. But anyway, so I bought this little dog. I called it Zach. It's a whole nother story. So I called it Zach because Zach in Hebrew means for remembrance. So I called it Zach in memory of my neighbour Jack Chatterton, that named his dog after me. And I had Zach for a couple of years, and oh my God, he was like a baby, literally. I mean, I made him like that, it's my fault, because he was so little, he came everywhere with me. I used to take him to work, I'd put him in my handbag if we went in a cafeteria or whatever. He used to ride on my bike, in the front basket of my bike with his ears flying back. He loved that. And he was happy as long as he was with you, but you could not leave him alone for a minute, because even just putting the petrol in the car, he'd be going mad trying to get out of the car. And that was because he was such a baby. So when I met my partner and we started living together, he didn't like him at first. Well, he was jealous of him. He was jealous of everyone and everything. He was just claustrophobic. But I didn't sort of realise that until as time went on. But, you know, in the beginning it was like, oh no, he's not sleeping in the bed, you know, and all that sort of thing. But as soon as we split up and he had to keep the dog. I'll explain about that in a minute. But the dog was sleeping in the bed then. But so what Zach would do was he'd make him sleep in the basket at the side of the bed, and in the middle of the night he would creep up on the bed and you'd wake up in the morning and he'd be tucked under your neck, you know, and he was so little you hadn't even noticed it happening. And my ex, he would say to me, oh, you knew he was doing that, you let him do that. And you know, I didn't. He literally would creep up. He was clever. He was a clever poodles are very clever dogs. Anyway, as time went on and we split up, I had to leave Zach with my ex-partner because I moved out of our house. I took the car. I needed it to get to university, etc. And my ex-partner, who I won't name because, you know, some of his family might end up watching this. I wouldn't want that, you know, them to think I was disrespecting him. He kept the dog, and he wanted the dog as well, because by then he had got, I think he realised what good company Zach was. So time went on and things just became awful, and his obsession grew and grew and grew, and over probably 5 months, from the September when we separated, which really was only supposed to be a trial separation, but his actions, which as I say are all explained in the book or on the video on the members channel, it just, everything deteriorated, and in the end I was literally living in fear of my life, checking my car boot to make sure he wasn't in it before I drove off from anywhere, etc, etc. And by this time, again another long story, but by this time I was also pregnant, so it was a very scary time. That's why the case of Morel Sturrock as well, with her being pregnant when she was unfortunately killed by her partner, and her unborn baby Jaden, you know, that really struck a bell with me, because it made me realise how close that I came really to losing everything. But anyway, so going back to Zach, so this is the important thing. Let's have a look at a few photos of him. So I'm going to show you one photo. This photo is of Zach with my baby when he was finally born. This is a photo of them together on the sofa. This next photo is of me and Zach, and I'm trying to work out what house I'm in there. I don't know whose house that is. That's not my house. Absolutely no idea where. I think it may have been my ex-partner's mum's house. I think that's where it was. As you can see, I was young once. I had dark hair. Dark is my natural colour, but since I came to live in Spain, it's just bleached out completely, and of course now it's probably grey as well. So you know, my hair is never dark now. You know, even if I put a dark colour on it, it doesn't hold. So that's that one, and then this one again with my dark hair. This was in my house when I lived in Reading, of me and Zach, and of course Zach being a black poodle, you can't see him particularly well, but anyway you get the point. So he was a tiny little black poodle. He was a lovely dog. All dogs are lovely, but he was a lovely dog, and he was like my baby. Now, as things progressed and went wrong, and carried on going wrong for my ex-partner, and I wouldn't go back with him, etc., he did delete himself. Now, the point I want to make here, about going back to what Peter Faulding said about the guy that went into the river and drowned accidentally, when my ex-partner did what he did to himself, our neighbours said that early hours of the morning the dog started crying. Now, they didn't think anything of it, because we used to have to get babysitters for Zach when we went out, because he hated being left on his own. So if we went out without him, because we used to take him nearly everywhere because he was so little, but there was occasionally times we had to go out without him, he would sit on the top of the stairs and howl, and our neighbours would say, "Oh, did you go out last night? We heard Zach howling, so we gathered you'd gone out." So that particular morning when my ex-partner took himself away to another world, Zach started howling, and he howled all night. And as I say, the neighbours didn't realise, because they just thought we'd gone out somewhere or whatever. They didn't know what had happened. And then in the morning, as I say, the full story is in the other video. I'm not going into the full story. But the next morning, when the police finally arrived, that's how they realised where my ex-partner was, where they heard the dog howling in the garage. And Zach, right, sorry, I just get me composed myself. Zach was sitting next to guarding my ex-partner's body, and wouldn't let the police anywhere near it. And the police were actually saying to me, "Oh, what's the dog's name? He won't let." No, this tiny little dog, but he was like guarding his body, and he didn't leave him, not for a minute. until finally they got him and I went and collected him, obviously. Now, the point of this story is, I'm saying it just made me realise, yes, we do have Willow's testimony, because I believe that if Nicola had gone into that river at that point, Willow would have been going mad. Mad. Any point. And if she went the other way, and Willow would have followed wherever she went, and Willow would have been sat at that point. Gosh, I thought I could get through this without getting upset, sorry. Willow would have been sat there, she wouldn't have left. That's my belief. And any of you who maybe have had similar experiences to that, or know of similar experiences, you know, there's the dog in the film with Richard Gere, you know, who waited for his owner every day after off the bus in Japan, I think it was. I can't remember the name of the film. There's lots of stories, and I know they're anecdotal, well, they're true stories, but they're true stories that people tell. So Mr. Adeley, I'm sure you're not watching, but if you are, this is Willow's testimony. Willow has given us her testimony. She doesn't like Paul. There was a ball. She would never have left her mother, you know, her mummy, as they kept referring to, as Paul kept referring to him, and Emma with the dog, her mummy. She just wouldn't. She wouldn't. She was running around that field confused, because one minute Emma was there and then the next minute Emma was gone. That's my opinion. So now you can slate me off for it, or you can agree with me, or whatever, but that's my opinion. I'm not going to change that opinion. I don't believe that she threw herself into the water. I don't believe that she accidentally fell into the water, because I think Willow would have gone mad, and Willow would have followed her, either followed her into the water or sat by the riverbank crying, howling, like my dog was, like the dog was from the poor guy that Peter Faulding was talking about. That's what dogs do. That's what they do. Oof. Okay, I'm sorry for getting upset now. Do you know, it's awful, isn't it? Because you don't talk about these things, obviously, for a long time, and you think you've got over them. I mean, I'm going back 26 years that this happened. So, and look, you know, it doesn't ever leave you, does it? You just learn how to cope with it. Okay, I'm going to go. So remember to always and I will be doing in the lead up now, up to the inquest, when I'll be doing a live stream that full day. I will be doing more videos as soon as something. I mean, I'll be going back over some things and trying to put a different slant on it, because I'm just trying to keep this all alive, and I want us to remember why we thought it was mysterious in the first place. Not just think, oh well, there's nothing we can do. Well, maybe there is nothing we can do, but what we can do is talk about it. So thank you for watching. Remember to always live and love very carefully, and I'll see you real soon in the next video, and until then, may your God always go with you. Bye.